Well, what is going on, everybody? Welcome, Jay Spence. How are you
What
tonight, my
up?
man? It's good to
What's
see
up,
you.
man? Yeah,
It's
it's good to be back. I had
what
a had
what'd
some
you have?
time off there.
Yeah, you did. Well, big things going on in your life, right? So you're in a big white screen, like a white screen room. So did you buy a
Yeah.
studio? What happened?
No, nope. I'm just I've relocated, got a new office here, so I have to. All my fanciness is not up yet. So next time you see me, I'll be sure to be fancy again. But I'm ready, man. This hump day, I've been waiting
Hump,
for this.
hump
I've been
day.
off for a week and a half now. Like I'm like, yo, I'm itching to get back in.
Somebody's got something to say. Is that what you're telling me? You got something to
No,
say?
I just missed it, man. I got used to talking to people every week, and now it's just like last week was quiet.
A little bit, a little bit. Everybody, welcome into the Hump Day Hotline on the Buffalo Rumblings Multicast Network. My name is Joe Miller. I am the co-host of the Hump Day Hotline. You can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired. That says Joe Miller. Just add Wired to it. You got me. My co-host on the other side of me over there at Jay
Boy,
Spence
Jay
the
Spence
King.
the King.
And we are excited that you guys are here tonight. So this is what's up. Today's my anniversary. But you know that already, right? So 20 years. 20.
Woo!
20 years, man. And bro, it don't feel like 20 years. It goes really
Man.
how long you been married?
4?
4. It just goes faster. It literally just goes faster. Like, so I can't even begin to tell you, but it's super. I'm excited. It's been a good day so far. Um my daughter had a track meet, so we didn't really get to do anything. We went to lunch. We're gonna do some stuff on Friday, but that's not why everybody's here. But it's a good day. Whenever it's your 20th anniversary, it's a pretty good stinking day for you personally. And I got cut. I went and saw Jay Nico today. I got cut, so I'm fresh. So I look good. You know, when you look good, you feel good.
You've been bragging on your barber a lot lately too, so I
Dude.
feel like he really be
Yeah,
I get
dude.
you right.
He's been my barber for about 2 years now, so maybe longer. So yeah, I go see Jay Nico every 2 weeks. But so what's going on in Bill's Mafia land? What's going on with the chat, people? What do we want to talk about tonight? We have not, you and I literally have not gotten a chance to discuss the schedule outside of you just saying that things are lining up perfect for you. So why don't we start there before we bring Matt Parrino in, because Matt Parrino is going to be joining us to talk about rookie camp and stuff like that. But how did that schedule shake out for you?
Well, actually, for me, it shaped out perfectly. So, obviously, I'm going to be coming home for the season opener. So I'll be in Orchard Park to hang out with everybody. We're going to probably, hopefully, we're not going to say so yet, but we're going to say hopefully we'll be able to do a live show either somewhere like day of or the night before or something like that. So we'll figure out a Hump Day special. But other than that, I can't wait to party with you guys. Can't wait to do that. But I got season tickets for the Cardinals out here.
Right.
So the way that falls, pretty much is like every game that the Cardinals play, the Bills play at a completely different time, and I don't have to miss any of the game. I think there's 2 games that in the fourth quarter I might have to like switch to my phone on my way to the stadium to watch to finish watching the game.
Right,
But
right,
other
right.
than that, man, this is gonna be perfect.
Sweet. No, it's don't expect that to happen again next year. Next year you'll probably
I
get the
know.
double whammy, and somehow the Cardinals will end up on like at 1 o'clock every Sunday
Yep.
with the
Every
Bills. It's
game.
like what?
Every single game.
They're a
And
West
then
Coast
you
team.
know
They
what
can
though?
play 1 o'clock. Yeah.
And the thing is too for me, like what's gonna suck is I know they rotate obviously divisions every year.
Mhm.
So unless the Bills end up coming back out, but they were here last year, so I don't think they're going to
Right.
be doing the NFC. I don't think it's going to be. They're not going to be in Phoenix anytime soon. And if they do play Phoenix, I feel like the Cardinals are going to come to Buffalo.
Think so?
So yeah, I'm just kind of short on that. So looking forward to it. But I got a good schedule. The
Yeah.
Cardinals, I'm not a fan like that of the Cardinals, but I got tickets because I love football.
Yeah, you
And
do.
you figure, they're going to be playing the Packers. They're going to be playing. I know the Texans are going to be without Deshaun Watson probably.
Mhm.
We don't hear anything about that. But our guy Tyrod is now down there as the quarterback that's going to be in place. My guy Andre Roberts is going to be returning punts for them, so I get to see the Texans. And then, but a lot of teams that I really like, the Rams have made it for a quarterback who I think will elevate their offense. I get
Yep,
to see
yep.
them. And then the Cardinals, they have a good roster. If AJ Green is kind of healthy, you add him to the mix that they already have at wide receiver with Christian Kirk and come on, Hopkins, man. You already know how I feel about Hopkins. JJ Watt's here. It's gonna be a fun year.
It's gonna be a fun year for sure. For sure. Brian Bowers just entered the room. Get a lot of the the usual folks up in here. Richard Russ, Chris Jenke, the real Chris Jenke. Vlad Ostrov is in here. Who else? Joey Hatch is in here. It's good to see all of y'all. And do us a favor, whatever platform you're watching on, jump on that like button, hump the like, as we like to say here on Wednesdays. And somebody already gave us a thumbs down. I don't know if somebody's upset that I've been married for 20 years. But I don't know. But also subscribe. So we are at 830 subscribers on YouTube. We want to get to 1,000 because that opens up a whole lot of opportunities and just different world for us as it pertains to YouTube. So if you are watching on YouTube or if you're on Facebook or Twitter, jump over to YouTube, subscribe, and then let's jump into this chat thing. But Chris Jenke says one of my favorite things to do when the Bills aren't on TV is root for former Bills players on other teams. I'm right there with you. If it's not fantasy guys, like guys that are on my fantasy team, it's generally other Bills players.
Yeah, no, for sure. I definitely root for all the older Bills players who I don't have a bad taste in my mouth. So like Kiko Alonso, I won't root for him ever. Like anybody who I just have a bad taste. I didn't dislike Gilmore, so I still root for Gilmore. I will get to see Brian Winters.
You get to see the right side of that offensive line collapse over and over again.
I will. I don't think he's going to make the team, though. I know, I really don't think he's going to.
He shouldn't. And I'll be honest with you, Chris. It's possible there's a jealous, scarred ex-lover out there. I don't know what her name would be, but it's definitely possible. I haven't. It's been a long time since I've been in the scene, in the mix. I can't imagine any of them even remember me. But so what? And I want to ask this to the chat folks as well. So away games. As far as away games go for Bills, because I know you like to travel. Last year, I had I had flights and rooms booked for the Bellagio for the Vegas game, and we were all supposed to end up at the Vegas game, like back when we were with Fanatics. Like that was the game we were all going to end up going to, and it didn't happen. There was a lot of exciting road games on the list last year. What's on this year's? Are you going to go to any road games? Obviously, coming home will be a road game for you. But are there any road games away from Buffalo that you're maybe going to attend or looking forward to or possibly going to try to attend?
For me this year, I'm gonna kind of ease up on the traveling. Since I got season tickets here, I'm just gonna pretty much do the home game for the Cardinals for the most part. But I will be, like I said, I will be there for the season opener. But yeah, I can't see myself traveling too much this year with everything going on.
It's just not a great road schedule. Excuse me. I mean, outside of New Orleans, which is on Thanksgiving Day, and Thanksgiving, by the way, I've been married 20 years. I know what my wife's favorite holiday is. It's Thanksgiving. There's no way I'm going to a football game in New Orleans, Louisiana on Thanksgiving.
She's been understanding about a whole lot, but I don't know about that one right there, Joe.
Right. Maybe Jacksonville just because of the Mafia takeover, Tennessee because of the Mafia takeover. Who in the chat? Is there anybody out in the chat where Arizona? Doesn't look like anybody saying anything about the away games. It's just not a great schedule.
What about the Super Bowl champs?
Tampa, right? Yeah,
that's going to be a heck of a game, man. Like if we're the team that we think we are, that's going to be a great game.
No, it's true. It's priming. It's funny that they buried it so far in the back of the schedules they did, because we all thought it was going to be early, right? And it's December 12th at Tampa and Florida. Anytime you can go to Florida in December, if you live in Buffalo, it's not a bad thing. I don't know. I've never been to that stadium. I used to live in Tampa. I have a soft spot in my heart for Tampa. Always have, because I lived in Tampa for about 3 years. But I just, I'm Brady averse. Does that make sense? Brady averse. Yeah. But there's a lot about this schedule that I do like. This is a very easy, like. I put it out there before. There's a really good chance the Bills go 4-0 in the first 4 games, and they could very easily finish the season 4-0. So if you're bookending 4-0 and 4-0 and you've got 8 wins, not in the bag. I mean, obviously they have to play the football games, but man, that really sets you up for a really, really, really good season.
What was your total season prediction? Your schedule score?
I don't have one yet.
Okay.
Do you?
I did. I'm going with 13-4.
13-4. Such a weird number, right? I think we're going to be in that 12 to 13 wins. 12, 13, 14 seems like a stretch to me. So Robbie's in the house.
Robbie.
I've been to KC. I don't know that I would set myself up for that abuse again. I talked a lot about it with Joe Marino on Sunday night on the Overreaction Show. If you're interested in knowing my take on KC, those fans are rabid and crazy. And we just don't seem to play well in Kansas City. So I probably would avoid that game. Vlad's got 14-3. But your man, our guest of honor, is in the green room. So do you want to bring him in? Do you want to talk?
Yeah. My guy. We got I did some. Today was one of those days where it was like, hey, we need some news, and I'm like, you know what? Who's the guy to go to except the guy who has eyes on the team? So I'm like, hey, Matt, man, have you been watching? So, ladies and gentlemen, introducing to really no introduction needed because he's the guy. My man, Matt Parrino, man. What's up, Matt?
What's up, boys? Doing a little double duty tonight. Got me coming on after our show, but I always say yes to my man Jay Spence, Joe Miller. You guys do a great job. I was listening at the start for a few quick minutes while I was getting some things together. Congratulations, Mr. Miller. 20 years.
20 years. Yep, 20 years.
Some unbelievable, amazing accomplishment. So
he doesn't even look a day over 30, does he?
It gets better. I got married. I was 27 years old. My wife was 18.
Wow.
All right.
Wow.
So yeah. So
she's stuck with an old man.
She's stuck with an old man. That's right. But, I'm beyond blessed and super lucky. 20 years, and it's flown by. When you have the right one, it just goes. It just flies by. So
amen, man.
Yeah, and I got two wonderful kids. And
hey, Matt, before we go any further, I know you posted about it, man. Hey, I'm so sorry for your loss. I'm a dog guy. I'm a dog dad. I have 3, so I know how that. It's heartbreaking. I feel for you.
Yeah, it's been a tough week. I was talking about that on the show. Like I've just been so disconnected because it just shocks you. Even though we were prepared, we're getting prepared for like days and like weeks. We kind of the writing was on the wall. Like he got sick, and we don't know what stage it was at, but there's all these little things that go into that kind of decision. He was about to turn 12, and probably could have gone longer, but it's like a quality of life deal, and so explaining that to your kids and like all that kind of, it's just the last thing in the world we want to do is say goodbye to that dog. But yeah, it's an emotional week, but yeah, people have been awesome. Thank you to everybody that's reached out and allowing me to talk about it and post about it. I know sometimes people are like, stick to sports and stuff like that. I don't put a ton of personal stuff out there, some stuff about my kids and the dog, but yeah, thanks for saying that, man.
Yeah, no, well, I feel you. Trust me, I feel for you. I literally shed a tear that day. Seriously. Yeah. So listen, we wanted to get you on because you got eyes on the team, and right now this rookie minicamp it's the talk. We don't have much else to talk about. How does that? I wasn't a big fan of our number 1 pick. I kind of got beat up saying that publicly because I didn't think that he was going to be the guy to come in and help us right now. I know Joe and I talked about that. How do you feel about our number 1 overall pick, Joe?
Same. It was. People have asked me repeatedly. Everybody. I mean, when you do this and you do this long enough, and I've been doing this for a couple of years, not as long as Matt has, obviously. People ask you. They get you at church. They find you at the restaurant, wherever it is. They want to know your opinion about what you thought. And for me, when it settled in my heart, it was just this draft was different. It wasn't what I expected. Edge, and the first guy being a high ceiling, high character guy. That's not I expected. To your point, Spence, I expected a cornerback. I expected somebody who was going to maybe a running back if one of them fell to us. Somebody who was going to help right now. At first, I was not. I don't know. I wasn't excited about it, but as it settled in, trust the process, right? I mean, that's where we are. We trust the process.
So with that, like obviously, so we both kind of felt like that, but now we have settled in. Like, okay, obviously this guy was a stud the year that he played. Forget what the combine or whatever showed. We know he's an athlete. What do you see so far at camp, and what do you see looking forward that the team is excited for this guy?
So I'll say that the guy that I kind of had circled from conversations I had going into the draft was Jalen Phillips. Was the guy that I think most people I talked to, connected in the league, thought that he was the number 1 defensive end in this draft, and he ended up going first of all these kind of edge rushers in a class of edge rushers that, I don't think it has had anybody like overly excited. I think that you can make arguments for that group of 5 or 6 that went in the top 40 picks as to why you might like them, why you might not. The sense that I've gotten now since, getting after the draft and some of the conversations around the draft was that the Bills didn't think Rousseau was going to be there. And so that was something that when they got to pick 30, it was a situation where I think they had a pretty decent grade on Tyson Campbell and Asante Samuel Jr., who I had them mocked to them. And from conversations I had, I think that the Bills were high on him.
Mm.
But it just comes down to how you win in this league. You know, we're talking tonight on our show about Steven Nelson and about, the fact that he's still out there. There's a couple really good cornerbacks still out there, and they're sitting out there, right? And they're all going to cost you some money, and teams haven't made the move yet for those guys. And I know teams are cash strapped, and in most years they want to be there. But where has all the money gone? To the defensive line? And it's a copycat league. You saw what Tampa Bay did in the Super Bowl, and you try to emulate that. But for the Bills, they have so much talent in the secondary. I know that it's an upgradable spot at CB2, no doubt about it. Depending on what happens with Dane Jackson, you know what you got in Levi Wallace. But where do you have to get better to really get the most out of that secondary that already has talent at the 2 safety spots and Trey White? You got to get better on the defensive line.
Yep.
And I think that there's a belief in Rousseau that it might not be 2021, but looking past Jerry Hughes and Mario Addison, and all you have really in terms of youth at that position is AJ Epinesa, who I think the jury's still out on. I think that they're bullish on him, and there's hope there. But if you're asking me what I've seen of Rousseau, everything I've seen from draft night when I got to talk to him in Cleveland, which was awesome, by the way, being back in an actual event, being around a player. That's the first time I've been around a player since the Houston Texans locker room back in 19.
Oh, wow.
Like in the same room as a player. And so that was awesome. Love the kid. Like, I think that energy, you talked about like the character, but you also talked about those freakish athletic abilities. And I think Eric Washington was brought here specifically to develop talent at that position. He's done a great job of that historically in Carolina. He's been a defensive coordinator the last couple of years. He was there, but before that, the work that he's done on that defensive line, I think Sean McDermott trusts him. And so if you have that insulation and you have that trust built, you take a swing on a guy like Gregory Rousseau, who has this upside. You bring him in and you kind of just see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. It was interesting because it's interesting. The interesting thing about the Gregory Rousseau pick for me was that it followed it up, immediately with Basham, which was that's the guy that to me is the juice this year. So as much as they're going to wait for Gregory Rousseau to kind of develop, or potentially he might not need to. When I was talking to Fina about it, Fina was like, why does everybody think this kid needs to develop? Maybe he will. Maybe he'll just come in and be an impact player. And I was like, that's true, but chances are everything that we're told, what everybody says, it's going to take him a little time to find his ceiling. I was immediately better with it when they went to Basham in the second round, but I was also shocked that they went edge 1-2, because that's just borderline unheard of. It's just not something. What did you see between the two of them in the rookie camp? Like, what can you share with us that you saw? Obviously, Rousseau is huge. He's an enormous dude, but what stuck out to you?
Basham's quickness, and listen, we're watching drills on air. We're not, the 11-on-11 work that they did was 50% half speed. We didn't really glean anything from learning about them as players, but you could just see, I tweeted out a couple of videos. Basham he's quick, he's fast, he's kind of twitchy for a big dude. I mean, they're talking about this guy. I think one of the scouting reports I read was like, Boogie is a couple cheeseburgers away from eating himself into the inside of the defensive line. And, he is a big dude, but he's athletic. And, they're going to get him in the building here. And, I thought that it was a cool interview. I think it was Howard Simon and Jeremy White. They were interviewing his college coach at Wake Forest. And Sean McDermott actually called them the week before to check in and get a little bit, on Boogie Basham. And the guy raved about, his competitive fire, which obviously, means something in the Bills building. But to me, that tells me that anything you ask this guy to do, he's going to try to do it, because I think he's probably pretty pissed off that he's coming in here as the 61st overall pick when there was some, you mentioned juice. I mean, he should have probably been a first round pick. A lot of people had him, going in the first round, draft experts. And I think there's some belief in the league too. It's just a weird year where there was all these question marks, and then the run on defensive ends, and then the value probably was higher on other guys. So it's a luxury pick. It's a cost effective pick, because when you look past Hughes and Addison, the Bills, as long as one or two of these guys really hit, they have really affordable contracts at the defensive end position, which is one that you're going to have to pay on, now in 4 years, but you're in the middle of a Super Bowl window. So this makes a ton of sense the more and more you dive into it, no matter what you think, I think, of the players, just
Right.
the philosophy of it, I think.
Right. When you were doing did you do any film study on Greg either before or after the draft?
I don't do film study, but I definitely dove into
Highlights?
watching some of his games and,
Yeah.
trying to see what kind of player he is. The thing that jumped out about, and I don't know if this is your question, but the thing that jumped out to me about him is, this kind of interesting conversation happening about what,
That's my
oh,
wife.
that's nice.
That's my wife.
That's nice. You are cute. You got the beard edged up really
Dude,
nicely.
I got cut today, bro. So
He
yeah.
better start
awesome.
blushing, man. He better start
I
blushing.
am
It's
red.
coming.
I am red.
That's love right there.
That's why I
love
threw it up. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's awesome. So, just his ability to be around the quarterback. I know that there's a lot of people talking about his, very convenient sacks, like, playing
Yeah.
off of other players in that line and kind of everything like that. But I do like what I heard out of Brandon, and I don't think we've heard from Sean actually since the draft. But about what they liked of him on tape and the fact that his high motor, his quick get off stuff that maybe didn't translate at his pro day. And I maintain, like, you remember that Embedded episode, and I forgot to shout this out. I saw that they're coming out with the Embedded, I think tomorrow, on the show. Those are always fun watches, see behind the scenes. Remember Gabe Davis's Embedded last year when they were all at the combine watching him run, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, fingers crossed, run a slow time, run a slow time."
Right.
Yep.
I almost feel like that was probably the same thing going on at Russo's pro day. Yo, fall on your face, man. Just fall on your face here, because here's the things we know we like about you already. And I really think, I'm telling you, I was talking to people 3 days from the draft, and they're like, I floated Russo, and the thought was that he wasn't going to be there. So
Yeah.
I think they feel like they got a gift at that spot.
Where I was going, and the commenters or the chat's already asking if they're going to get to ask you questions. Yes, we're going to get to some questions for Matt here in a second. Actually, if you've got them now, is in regards to the defensive line, that's what we're talking about. Please feel free, Chris or whoever else. The reason I was asking that, I was kind of baiting you into, was from a comp standpoint. For me, when I watched his highlights back, he looked like JPP to me. He looked like Pierre Paul to me. Like that was who. And I'm not saying that he's going to be better or worse, but there's a great deal of like, well, if that's who he turns out to be, okay, I'll take that, right? But playing inside, playing outside, kind of moving around the line, he looked a lot like Jason Pierre-Paul to me. Did you see that or feel that?
Yeah, and what was cool about his, his tape and looking back at some of his games, I felt like he's kind of like, it's a bad word to use in football, but he's kind of like a sloth in a lot of ways. Like he'll start the play at edge and just as easily kind of, work his way inside without you even realizing it. And then he's making a play, after the quarterback relocates in the pocket. And like, to me, that is the type of thing that is huge in the room. Like talking to Leslie Frazier last year about what they really want out of their defensive ends. They want a 4-man rush that acts as one unit. And they're trying to get the quarterback off their mark so guys can be set up to make plays. And I think Rousseau is the kind of headache type freak athlete that can throw a kind of a monkey wrench into things and help Jerry Hughes, who, we talk so much about Mario Addison being the guy to jumpstart Jerry Hughes' sack numbers, because it's been so long since he played with an elite guy like, Mario Williams. That didn't happen last year. And we'll see how that turns out this year. But adding, these two young players and seeing if one of them hits and helps in that department, what it means for Ed Oliver as a pass rusher too.
Yeah, for sure. Vlad actually makes a statement, and I'm just going to read it. If Rousseau would have played this season and played as well, he probably would have been gone before pick 30. And that's what you were kind of inferring, that there was a great expectation, even with him having opted out in 2020, that he was not going to be there by the time the Bills picked at 30. I think what's surprising to me is the fact that before he played defensive end for 1 year, he was a wide receiver and a safety, which is really, that's not a jump you hear. You hear like, linebacker to safety. You hear like different wide receiver to cornerback. You don't hear safety or wide receiver to defensive end. That's not really, I haven't seen any early like high school or early college film on him, but that was interesting to me. So I don't know what your thought was on that, but
there's one, I saw one highlight of him catching a ball down the left sideline over this. he was like 6'3", and it looked like the cornerback was maybe 5'2", and it was kind of funny to watch. But yeah, he's been a freak athlete. Like, he comes in with that high motor. I just think he's got a lot of work to do on his body.
Yeah.
More so than I think even Epinesa did, because they were asking Epinesa to come down and then move back up. Rousseau's got to add bulk and maintain that, a lot of those physical attributes that he already has. So there's going to be some tweaking that goes on in his game. And I think that's where it comes in, talking about I asked him about the red shirt, comments that are out there, like, okay, it's going to be a slow process. And he was like, with all due respect, and that's in the coach's hands, but I got no interest in that. I'm coming in to make an impact right away. So he's got the right mindset, but I just think it's going to be a slower build with his body, more so than anything.
Right, for sure. Our guy Brian Bowers asks, who will be this year's X factor on the defensive line?
Ed Oliver. You don't have to ask me that.
I agree.
Many different ways. I think this is trending towards the Ed Oliver, breakout party, like a la a Josh Allen in year 3. I know that there wasn't a lot to like last year, but I think that the Bills really, as a team, will go back to the drawing board and realize where they failed at Oliver in a lot of ways last year, and to no real fault of their own. Like, they got thrown a real curveball with the star situation, and we've all talked about that in great detail.
Yep.
I'm a little concerned that they've not added another one technique. I'm interested to talk to Sean about that and see if he'll give us any insight into why they can. Even the guy that they brought in last week, I think, at one technique to work out. I mean, I think he was like 310 pounds or something. I mean, it's not somebody that is going to be like a block shedder or a space eater, or maybe he is. I mean, he's just an undersized guy. But I think that Ed Oliver is a guy that he's learned a lot of valuable lessons over these 2 years, and I think this is the year that you can unleash him, play him more naturally in his spot. Don't mess around with any of that nose tackle business. He shouldn't be over the center at all. He's too small, and I think they will have learned that and deploy him properly. I'm waiting for the first Cowboys game, like mirror game, going back to his rookie year, because I remember writing that up and saying, like, I think they just landed on something here with him, and then we really didn't see that again. And I think that it was almost like his growth was impeded a lot last year with Starr not being there. And then I think Vincent Taylor, cutting Vincent Taylor, I still go back to that as maybe if they can do things differently. And I don't think anybody would admit it publicly if we asked them about it, because they like Zimmer, they liked the guys they had, Quentin Jefferson, who came out and was kind of vocal about things as well on Instagram. I think they would have kept Taylor and maybe hope that would have been somebody that could maybe hold up better in those one tech role. I don't even think they're going to play Vernon Butler much at one tech this year, because I don't think that went very well last year either.
Who's the cut? One of these guys has got to go, if not two, right?
I hate to say it. I think Vernon Butler has to have an amazing camp.
I agree,
because of how much he's making, but also, like, Harrison Phillips has to come back and prove without a shadow of a doubt that the leg is good. He's healthy. He's ready to go. I thought he had little spurts last year, but I think it was also always going to be a slow grind back from that injury. But like we've talked about, this window, it doesn't stay open forever, and you never know when it closes. And so they might have to make a hard decision like that. A locker room guy who they spend a draft pick on, who at his peak in year 2 was really good before the injury. Like, I thought he was trending in a great direction. So you hate that story, like, if that ends up being a storyline. But I think that with the guys that they have in the mix here, like, even Justin Zimmer, dude, like, I think he outplayed Harrison Phillips last year from a 3-tech position. So if they come in the preseason games and that still looks to be the case, you're going to have to make a really hard choice. And this is a tough spot too. This will tell you a lot about the regime. This is when they get into the real meat of Brandon Beane's draft classes, when they got to start making roster decisions that might impact guys they drafted. And, we'll see how that goes. But I think those two guys are early on some guys that I think could have trouble making the team. And I will maintain that Mario Addison has a uphill battle. I know that there's confidence in him, and I understand that, but there was confidence in, everybody. There was confidence in Trent Murphy, even after the fact that he kept him, and then they benched him for half of the season last year. So sometimes I feel like the best things are said publicly because, it's about keeping that, the mentality of the team in place. But, there's no cut would surprise me of the three guys that I just mentioned.
Yeah, Richard Ruts. Oh, sorry,
Well,
Spence,
real quick, because I got a quick question. Because just to switch gears a little bit, we're talking about defense. What about our offensive line, man? I got excited about Spencer Brown, and I know that we're not expecting him to come in and play. Like I get that. Like right now, he's not going to come in and steal someone's job. Well, maybe, we're not expecting him to, but the measurables and everything that this guy brings to the table has me excited. Is he going to be as good as advertised?
Spencer Brown is, if I was ranking like picks I liked by the Bills from 1 to like picks I like least, Spencer Brown's number 1 on the list of any Bills draft pick. And that goes into the potential of what he can be combined with my initial, interactions with him. And maybe this is the media guy in me that likes to tell the stories, but the dude is just engaging. He's smart. What he did in the offseason, like Northern Iowa couldn't play their season last year because of COVID, obviously, and he could have transferred. He decided not to because his teammates couldn't play. They weren't getting offers to transfer, and he just felt like he'd be letting them down or sabotaging them. So instead, he sat out. And okay, well, what are you going to do? Go and work out and hope for the best? No, he went to California. He trained specifically with former 49ers left tackle Joe Staley, and basically learned the game with a very specific NFL trained regimen from a physical perspective to, more importantly, the tape side of things. And we all know, like hearing Brandon Beane talk about this, they want smart guys, especially on that offensive line. Bobby Johnson is a tough meeting. When you're a potential free agent or more so in the draft, when you sit down with Bobby Johnson, I mean, I would imagine that those meetings can be a little bit intimidating because he values the IQ when it comes to his players because A, Dable runs a very confusing system, and B, Johnson, just as much as anybody else on that staff, wants his guys to be able to play all 5 positions if they can. That's why Jack Anderson comes in here as a 4-year right guard starter at Texas Tech, and he shows up at minicamp, and the first thing they have him do is play in center like he did at the Senior Bowl because they're like, hey, if you're going to make this team, you're going to make this team because you're valuable to us X, Y, and Z. And so Spencer Brown's a guy, I think he can play both tackle spots. And I think that gives you versatility as you move into the future and you have choices to make down the line. And, I know everybody loves Deion Dawkins, rightfully so. Great community guy, great left tackle. I think he's a top 6, 7 left tackle in the league. But those kinds of players cost a lot of money. And as you move forward and as you pay Tremaine Edmonds and Josh Allen and potentially after that Ed Oliver, if he has the breakout year that I just predicted, then money is going to be scarce. And these are the types of moves that maybe you don't think about at the time, but 2-3 years down the road, a Rousseau, a Spencer Brown, that are franchise altering moves that really catapult you to the next level and keep you competitive. So I love the moves. And if they can go this way every year where they're drafting for 2-3 years down the road, I know everybody wanted a cornerback. And I'm not really here to tell you if you're right or wrong on that because people have valid reasons why they should have taken a cornerback. But I think that taking a position at a spot like 30 or 61 because you just want that position, I agree with Brandon Beane. I think that's the wrong way to go because you never know how a prospect is going to trend and what it can mean for your cap down the road. And I think that's what makes them so successful in that they do things differently than regimes have done here in the past. It's always been about the here and now and about okay, I need to fill X need, Y need. That's not the thinking here. And I think that's what's working so far.
Yeah, totally agree. You brought up salaries a second ago. And it's interesting to think when you consider all of the salaries that are coming up and we find ourselves soon in a similar position that we were in this year. And we were all floored. Spence and I sat on this show all of last year saying nobody's going to take a hometown discount. It doesn't happen in the NFL. And lo and behold, several guys took hometown discounts. Do you see that trend possibly continuing with this football team? Or is it, I mean, obviously I'm asking you to predict something you can't predict, but I think something happened that none of us would have ever imagined even happening with guys taking hometown discounts. Is that something you like? They want to keep this nucleus together. They want to stay together as a team with this coaching staff.
Yeah, And especially think like guys like Tremaine and Josh, who the franchise has built up so much equity with in the way that they've treated them, built around them, supported them, and believed in them. Like that's huge. Like that's
Mm,
huge for not only like players in general, but guys like Josh, who, he wanted to come to Buffalo or land in Buffalo even pre-draft because of the community and because of the feel that he got when he came to the city. And like the things that he wants that, so a lot of other high profile quarterbacks in the past haven't been those things haven't been as important to some of those
right,
players.
right.
And so I think that for Josh, something that Brandon said a couple weeks ago was, I can't remember if it was on the radio or with us. He was talking about, he doesn't think that Josh is going to take a hometown discount per se, but he said, we have talked about the fact that he does want to win and he does want talent around him. And to do that, you kind of got to take the Brady approach. I mean, it's so funny, this unbelievable narrative as we push towards week 14 of the season, right? Who knows? Does the extension get done beforehand? Even if it does, what does it look like? Josh Allen playing his boyhood idol, Tom Brady, who has been the bane of the existence of Bills Mafia for all of these decades. But really, in a lot of ways, it's almost like you're potentially getting your version of Tom Brady, not only in terms of a great quarterback that can be your
Mm,
great quarterback for decades, but also the mindset of that great quarterback. How many deals did Tom Brady cut the Patriots so they can build around him and keep that team successful? You got to be wired a certain kind of way. So to your
yep,
point,
yep.
to your question, yeah, I definitely think that Josh Allen, like if this thing comes in and it even lands at a little bit less than maybe even a Dak Prescott, would I be surprised? Not in the slightest, because of how they built this thing and how they want to continue to see it work.
That's super good.
Well, and I mean, also to your point there, I think Josh is, and I'm not taking shots at any player, but I think Josh remembers what his stats were, and I know he had to develop too, but I think he remembers his rookie season and the type of talent we had on the roster his rookie year, as opposed to this third year, and now going into this fourth year. It's a completely different roster, and I think it's a whole lot more fun to play with the Stephon Diggs than, playing with guys that couldn't catch the ball half the time.
Kelvin Benjamin.
I just think it's, well, I was trying to be nice. That I have an issue. I have an issue with that one, but no, Kelvin. If he isn't he trying to he's making the team as a tight end, or he's trying
Well,
out as a tight end now, right?
he hasn't made the team yet, but he's in Giants camp. Yeah.
Okay. I hope he. We'll see. We'll see.
Chris Jenke asked
Hey,
you. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
well, no, I was just going to make sure, Matt. Do you still have time to stick around? I know earlier when we talked, you had a little bit of time. I don't want to overdo it for you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah,
My
because
wife already went to bed, and I think I'm gonna wait around and try to watch some of this Lakers game, man. Damn, they got me
Yeah,
staying up
that's
till
good.
10 o'clock at night. This is
Just move to the
brutal.
west, man. Come on, move to the west. It's 7
I
o'clock.
know.
so I'm going to ask
I
you
moved.
this question.
I moved back here to do this gig, though, bro. Come on,
Gotcha.
they won't let
I
me
got
go
you.
now.
I'm going to ask you
I
this
got
question from Chris, and then I want to transition to when Spence and I were talking today about having you on. We were actually talking about special teams. So, and then we'll transition to special teams just for a couple minutes, and then we'll cut you loose. But Chris Jenke asks, which player on the offensive line do you think is going to have the hardest time making the roster? I guess returning: Ford, Bates, Lamp, Bacher, or Doyle?
That's a good question. I was talking about this on our show tonight. I think Forrest Lamp, unfortunately for him, he's arriving on this team um in 2021 as opposed to like 19 when guys like John Feliciano did, and
you.
I'm trying to think who else was Spencer Longs of the world, who
Mhm.
obviously didn't pan out as much as John.
Right,
But
right.
dude, this guy has talent. Like he was terrible last year. If you talk to anybody with the Chargers, he started 16 games. But what does Sean McDermott always say? Like, come here, become the best version of the stuff. They'll figure out a way with Bobby Johnson to get whatever this guy's got to give. They'll find a way to get it out of him. The problem is you got to surpass a guy on the depth chart in Cody Ford, who I think they're going to want to give every opportunity to win that left guard job.
Yep.
And then, so you figure he's going to be a depth piece, but I like that because this offensive line has dealt with injuries every year, it seems like. You know what I mean? Not so much in 19, actually. They stay pretty healthy outside of that one or two for Morse. But, Morse goes down. You got Feliciano still on the roster, who probably going to end up with the right guard job. You can move him over seamlessly to center. Then you have a plethora of options. I mean, you can go Ike Bucker again, who can play all three interior spots. Lamp, if he's on the roster. They like Anderson. Doyle is going to be probably one of those practice squad protection guys Bean was talking about it on his last appearance, that like with the way the rules have changed, and a lot of people have asked me about this. Yeah, you could still call up people. They're keeping that whole. I think it's still going to be a 16-man practice squad. You got to have a stacked squad ready to go
Nice.
because you can call people up, and I think that you're going to see a lot of these rookies land there. Everybody kept saying, man, they're taking chances with Dane Jackson last year, keeping him on the practice squad. But I think I don't know. Maybe it's like this is something we could dive into this year. Talk to Bean and McDermott about it. I'm wondering if there might not be an unwritten rule in the NFL, like, hey, don't come on my practice squad and poach my
Right.
draft picks or something.
Right.
Because I still think it's crazy that nobody even tried. Now in a COVID year, it's a little bit different because I think to offboard and onboard a rookie like that would have been way too much work for the franchise bringing him on, and then you got to teach him the scheme and do all that. So it was probably just too much. Maybe that's how that worked.
Well, there's risk as well, right? Because they have to promote him to the active roster, which
exactly.
So it's not just as simple as like that guy's good.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. But I like Lamp. I think that he's probably got the toughest. I'd probably say Doyle and then Lamp. I think Bucker and the three other guys, Bucker, Ford. Who was the other one that he had in the question?
Ford, Bates, Lamp, Bucker, and Doyle.
I think those other three are locks to make the roster.
Yeah,
I think Bates is way too versatile. I think Butker can play both guard spots, and he's like that. He's what they wanted Spencer Long to be to me. And then I think Ford is going to start at left guard, come hell or high water, unless he's terrible.
Agreed. So we so a lot of the people post draft that have had conversations about the draft and just the way that it shook out have basically landed in the spot. I think Spence is there. I'm there. I know Joe Marino's there. Who's going to have the quote unquote biggest impact in 2021 from the draft, like the draft that we had? A lot of us believe it's Marquez Stevenson, probably as a kick returner or a punt returner. And then lo and behold, the Bills go and sign Brandon Powell. And it's like, so now we've got Isaiah McKenzie, we've got Marquez Stevenson, and we've got Brandon Powell. And I guess the question is, what is going to go ahead?
Don't forget Matt Breida. Like, I know he hasn't been like a staple at return, but he's dibbled and dabbled there. So I mean, they have options. And then I feel like they brought somebody in to work out today or yesterday as well.
No, that's the guy I'm talking about. That's Brandon Powell. They signed Brandon Powell to a 1-year deal, kick returner.
Oh, they signed him?
Yeah, from Atlanta.
No, it was somebody else.
They brought in Jeff Badette.
Oh, they brought in
to work. Yeah, so they want to add another guy. We were talking about this on the show tonight, dude. This is the analogy I used. Brandon Bean's in his office, and he's got a dartboard, and he is throwing kick return darts at the board. And he said, "Listen, I got 4 or 5 here. One of them's going to stick to that board, and maybe even one of them's going to go near the bullseye. And I'm hoping that works out because." Listen, you're replacing, Jay Spence's guy here, Andre Roberts. Like, you're replacing, maybe arguably the best kick returner in franchise history. And so they have an idea of what made him successful. And I think what you do by bringing in all these guys, even though you like McKenzie and he's probably going to make the team and he can be that guy if you need him to be, and maybe he'll be really great. You never know. They want to try to take as many shots at it and see in preseason, like, okay, what can we have to work with? Because I think Farwell, you kind of have a nice situation here now. Farwell has worked with a premier kick returner for 2 years. He probably learned a ton from that experience. So now bring all these guys in and see if any of them have a little of that juice.
Yeah, for sure. Spence, you got a question about that?
No, I mean, so I guess for me, I know we won't know until we get to training camp, like the actual, when all the guys get there and we're actually looking at the competition. But if you were just going to take a crack at it, who do you think takes the job?
Ooh, look at you putting me on the spot with the special teams 53 man roster projection.
Well,
which, by the way, cheap plug, my first 53 man roster projection in the offseason will come out on Monday for the first day of OTA. So check that out over at Syracuse.com. The fact that they're bringing in another guy for a workout tells me that there's nobody at this stage with the work that they've done on all these guys where they're going into the camps and saying, I think we're set there. So do I necessarily think it's anybody like doing a bad job? Like I saw that suggested somewhere. I can't remember where, like, oh, maybe Marquez Stevenson, they got to look at him and then they're trying to add. No, I don't think that's it because they're just running 50% in minicamp. I don't think that anything happened there that threw him off the scent. I think that they probably will want Stevenson to win that job just to make him valuable and keep him on the roster. And, there is the speed there. There was ability there in college. So I'm gonna go with Stevenson. And I think even if Stevenson wins it, here's another little take. I think even if Stevenson wins the job, I think McKenzie still makes the team.
Well,
I
then
think they love McKenzie.
No matter what.
who's the man?
Yeah, I think they love him.
Who's the man on the outside? Where's that put Isaiah Hodgins? Or I don't think Gentry makes the team. Who are we talking about going at that point?
I think Hodgins is going to have a Gabe Davis like camp preseason to make the 53. I think he's going to end up on the practice squad. I think he's coming off of a year where I think that there was people that liked him, but he went in the 6th round for a reason. That's another thing people forget about that draft. Like, it was a great draft, like, for receiver, and Isaiah Hodgins probably goes maybe in the 4th in this last year's draft.
Right.
But I just think you can't bank on it yet. I want to see it. And the first day of camp last year, of training camp, Isaiah Hodgins was on fire, like making big catches, like the size, the catch point stuff that we had heard about all draft season long was on display. I think he could do it. I think he could have that, and then we have a different conversation. But you're asking me, as I sit here right now, May 19th, I think McKenzie is he's been that that thorn in the side of prognosticators for the past 2 years. I'm not predicting against him again.
No,
I love
good.
McKenzie. I love him. I love everything that he brings to the team, and now he's actually developed into not necessarily usage wise, but he's developed into a leader. He's one of the guys that, like, everybody in the locker room loves. They all respect him. They joke with him. They look to him for, and he's just always there. So I agree with you. I think there's certain guys who have to be on this roster because Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott think that they need their guys in that locker room. So I think McKenzie is one of those guys for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And a lot of head coaches are like that. Clearly, we see Urban Meyer doing it down in Florida with Tim Tebow.
Don't get me started.
Right. Do you guys, from Chris Jenke again, do you guys think there will be more player movement this offseason when roster cuts happen? Because COVID isn't as much of a question this year going into the season. So last year, we obviously didn't see as much player movement, I think is what he's referring to. Do you think there's going to be more? I think there will be.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely think there will be. It's going to be much easier. There's not going to be probably nearly as many protocols in place. I mean, we haven't really learned what it's going to look like this week. We just did mini camp last week, and it was very similar to practices last year, where we got to stand along the end zones of the 2 fields at the practice facility. But this time we actually got to go on the far sideline as well, which was different. We weren't able to do that last year. It was just the one. Everybody was still masked up, but now with the CDC, everybody outside deal, like, I'm very interested to see what this is going to look like as we move forward. I'm more than willing to wear a mask as long as they want me to wear one, but we'll see where this thing goes, because really the next couple months are going to be all outside. Even if we were at training camp, even if we were in person right now, everything that we would be, and every interaction between media and player would be outside. Right. So I'm very intrigued to see how the NFL responds to this. I don't think I've seen any memos tweeted out or reported yet about details of that, but that's like the next big thing, the next big, nugget that we can kind of get about what this season's going to look like.
Gotcha. Spence?
Well, no, I'm just grateful to have you on here, man. I know you said you had some more time. We got about 10 minutes to go. So before we let you get out of here, why don't you let everybody know where they can find your content, what you got going on, and all that stuff, and we'll let you ease on out of here.
Yeah, we if you're on YouTube, you can check us out over the Shout Bills podcast. It's at I think you search Bills on NY Up is the page name. Bills Mafia is awesome. When you guys are done with this, I'll pump this out on my social channels too. I love Rumblings, man. You guys do a great job. Bruce Exclusive, Matt Warren, Anthony Marino. I love doing everything with the Rumblings crew because I respect the work. There's so many talented people doing this stuff. It's a grind all year long. I mean, you guys are out here. This is like the dead zone right now, right?
Yeah.
Like where we're about to hit the mini camps and all that kind of stuff, which is fun in its own right. But then we get into really just the dark days of summer. But yeah, Syracuse.com, New York Upstate. I'm working on a story right now, diving a little bit more into, some of these free agents that are out there. One in particular, and Steven Nelson, I thought was interesting because cornerback. it's a need, or at least it could be improved. And the position opposite Trey, why not bring him in? Well, I write a little bit about why I think Nelson's probably sitting back looking at the situation in Buffalo and the competition that he'd be walking into and the potential money that he'd have to agree to. And I think that's why it probably doesn't make a lot of sense. Because I actually I'm getting that question a lot. Like, what about Steven Nelson? I mean, this is a guy that was really good in 19, was still okay last year, probably come in here and become even better. There's roadblocks. So that'll be up at the site tomorrow.
You know what? Wait, one more. But you mentioning that made me think of one more thing. Are we still kind of sort of maybe in the running for a trade for a tight end out of Philly? Just maybe a little bit, because I've been hearing a lot.
Yeah, we talked about that tonight too. I think it's
apparently Spence watched your show.
Yeah,
I didn't because I was talking to Joe, but I should have apparently.
No, I think I didn't actually talk too much on it. Ryan had a take on it, but I think that yes. But I also, at the same time, think that the fact that there hasn't been a move made yet, the value is going to be so low for the Eagles that I think they're just going to arrive at a time where it's more of a distraction to keep them around, and they end up just cutting them. And then the Bills swoop in that scenario, and probably, that's when they probably look to open up some funds. You know what I mean? Whether it be approaching Deion Dawkins, because I think they can open up like $8 million this year if they were to restructure that thing and move him 1 year down the road. I know that Brandon Beane said he doesn't want to get in the habit of doing that. Who did they do it with already? Trey White, right? They did that with his deal.
Yep.
And I think like what I really think could actually be done, and this to me makes the most sense, is if you get in a situation like that. Now, side note, I think I've arrived at this part of the offseason and said I'm not as on board with the Zach Ertz move as probably I was 2 months ago. I just don't think that there's enough juice there and what he could potentially add because of how many pass catchers there are already on this team. But here's a move that you can do. You can extend Stephon Diggs, get him paid appropriately, which is, top 5 in the league, maybe higher, but also push a lot of that out of 2021 where you're the most cap strap that you're going to be. Obviously when you give the extension to Josh, that's going to, make things difficult. But by 2023, even if you push a lot of that into that year, this cap is going to balloon once this money comes in from the salary cap or from the new TV deal. So I think that you can do that. And if you really think Ertz can move the needle, I'm pretty bullish on Dawson Knox. I know that that's a very polarizing conversation to have.
Everybody is.
I want to see year 3, no injuries. Now, if he gets injured again this year, I might have to be out on it, but let's see it. 1 year, 16 games.
I'm wholly in, and I think Spence is as well. What bothers me is there's people on social media, on Twitter, that we've seen enough of Tremaine Edmonds. How many years of Tremaine Edmonds do we have to see before we realize it's been too long and we got to let him go? And the dude will turn right around and go, I'm all in on Dawson Knox. I want to let that kid develop. It's like, where does that? I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you've got. Have you seen that? What I'm talking about?
I don't get the hate for our middle linebacker. I do not. I do not get it.
How have you lost patience with Tremaine and not Dawson? Tremaine had an injury, right? I mean, whereas Dawson has made some pretty boneheaded plays. And one of those boneheaded plays was in the last game you got to stand next to a player in that Texans game where he missed that block. And I still say it. Josh is still running and nobody's caught him if he makes that block before that dude buried him in the dirt. Dawson has made some pretty big mistakes, really big mistakes. Whereas Tremaine, it's normal for a young defensive player to be out of his gap once in a while or to get fooled, right? That's what offensive coordinators count on that, right?
He's a short tackler, man. He got injured. It was a shoulder injury. So, of course, he's not going to tackle as short. You know what, Matt, I'm sorry. We said we were letting you go, man. We done kept you for the whole show, man.
I like this conversation, though, because I was going to add in. I learned a valuable lesson. I was critical of Tremaine Edmonds, and I think rightfully so. I think he had a bad game. I can't remember the week it was this last season where I said, man, this is one of those games that the naysayers that will point to. And he was still battling the injury, I think, but it was in the moment. And Lorenzo Alexander called me on it and said, man, I went back and watched that game, and this is one of those points where, like, you're not in the room, you don't understand what he's being asked to do.
Sure.
And he's right. And I think that every time you talk to anybody in the organization, whether it be Brandon to Leslie Frazier, and the few conversations that I've had with Bob Babich, they rave about the kid. And what's good about it, though, I think if you're a Bills fan, even if you're in that group that's really critical of Tremaine and ready to jump off the ship, and why do they pick up the 5th-year option, all that, dude has a huge chip on his shoulder. He's hearing all of this, and so I think going into this year, you're going to get the most like laser-eyed, like focused Tremaine Edmonds, and that's saying something because the dude always is like that. Like I've talked about this on numerous podcasts, but like just watching him work like on the practice field, especially more so in camp, we get to see all of it. The dude is like, he is like a cyborg, man. Like I know he's like a predator, like with the dreads, like that's his kind of shtick.
Yeah.
But he's kind of like a cyborg, dude. Like he's out there like for hours, like just visualizing. Like everybody else will be off to the side, like in between drills, and there's never a minute off where he's not doing something related to just like visualization or whether it be drilling or whatever. Like the dude takes his job really serious, and I think from that perspective, you got to at least respect that and like want that, and root for it. And even if it doesn't work out down the road, you'll cross that bridge when he gets there. I mean,
sure.
I think he'd admit he wants to be better.
Yeah.
But I think that, to your point, anybody that's ready to get out of the Tremaine Edmonds business at 23 years old, just turned 23 years old, and still figuring this thing out, come on, man. Like, you talk to somebody smarter, which I did when I talked to Lorenzo Alexander.
But you know what, Matt? People who make that statement too, and it's like, because people still argue with you. Well, you say he's 23, but still, it doesn't matter. He's not playing well. The thing is, though, he is. It's like, so we'll look at certain games and we'll say, oh, that was a rough game for him. But then when you take a step back and you look at the big picture outside the frame. Don't try and be emotional about a specific game. Look at last season. Look at the season before. Mm-hmm. He might not have been the best middle linebacker in the league. No, but there's a reason why, because Tremaine Edmonds wasn't voted to the Pro Bowl by popularity. He in Buffalo, maybe before last year, or maybe last year we could say popularity became a factor for the Bills because now we were starting to get that love from the entire league. So this year, like the Bills are a known commodity this year. But prior to that, every Bills fan every week was complaining, we don't get the respect that we deserve. We don't get this. We don't get that. He made the Pro Bowl. And I know it. That's why I said, I know it's a popularity thing. It wasn't. He was he was put into that position. He played well. He led second or third on the team in tackles. And
he's first.
He can't tackle. Second, no, I think Poyer was first, if I'm not mistaken, last year.
I could be wrong. I thought it was 114. I thought he led the league with 100, or led the team with 114. I could be wrong though.
But so let's say he's first.
It's going to come up in the chat. It'll be in the comment section in about 5, 4, 3.
It'll pop up. But yeah, I just don't get it. I don't get it, man. And to be honest, I don't think we have many holes on our roster, which is something that is weird for me to say about a Bill. Being a Bills fan. If we do, Tremaine Edmonds damn sure ain't one of them.
Right. Yeah, Poyer was first in tackles. Chris Jenkins just said. So, Matt, we got to let you go. I know you want to watch that Lakers game, so you got about a minute and a half to grab a beer and go to the bathroom before the game comes.
Who you want to win?
I don't know, man. I'm a.
You got to just say it. You're on here, man.
But see, I am a Lakers guy in the sense that I'm a LeBron guy forever. So like wherever he goes, like that's my dude. But I don't know, something about this season. I've been a hater of his for years. Something about this season's got me loving Steph Curry. So I'm almost rooting for him in the scenario that he's in. Like, just keep it going. I mean, so we'll see. Whoever wins, I'll be happy, I guess, is my point.
Yeah, I just hope he gets MVP. I do. I'm with you there.
Yes.
Last question. Yummy Thai still the best Thai in Buffalo?
Yes. I've not had a better dish. Although I got to be honest with you, I haven't had it in a hot minute. So I got to get back on that summer Thai heat train. Got my spicy number 5. So there we go.
Very good. I keep trying to get my wife to go. We love Thai food. We haven't gone yet, but it's like 35 minutes from our house. And on Friday,
I know you're in Hamburg, right?
Yeah, Lakeview. It's just tough. So, but we're gonna give it a shot. So we got to get out there. So
I love it. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, dude. You the man. Thank you. Anytime you want to come on, let us know.
All right. Later, boys.
See you, bro.
All right, man. We thank Matt for coming on. Matt's always fun, man. I always enjoy talking to Matt.
Yeah, super good stuff. Well, I don't really have anything else going on. You got anything else? That was great. That was some good stuff. Like it's awesome to talk to people that have inside information from their own eyes, because all we get to do is speculate. All we get to do is hear what they write, hear what they say, right, hear what they tweet, and then we make our own whatchamacallits from there. We make our own observations from basically what they tell us. But what stuck out? Anything stick out to you from what he said? Was there anything that he said that it was like, oh?
The only thing that I guess to me was a little surprising was the way he talked about how the team views McKenzie. Like I know I felt like that, but you know, for him to kind of feel like it doesn't matter, like I feel like he's making the team. You know, it's like that's kind of shocking, because I feel like we drafted recently the last couple of years, we're getting these receivers, and then you know we bring in Sanders, and we got I feel like this year they're kind of on an all-in let's win thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if Isaiah McKenzie doesn't win that punt kick return position, I don't know if I'm as confident as Matt. But after he said it, it made me, yeah, you're right. He's turned into a leader. He's turned into that guy. So yeah, but that's the only thing that popped for me.
Yep. No, I agree. There was that. There was also just the stuff on the defensive line was really solid. The Bills, they have to do something. If they want to rotate guys like that, they're going to have to find inexpensive guys that can make an impact. And it seems like the way they've decided to do that is through the draft. And that's probably the smartest way to do it, because it did not work last year. It just did not work. Right. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching the Hump Day Hotline with myself, co-host Joe Miller, with my other wait, can I have another co-host? I'm the co-host. Wait, we're both co-hosts with Joe Miller and Jay Spence the King. Jay Spence, you were the man. It's been
you've been off too long, Joe.
A week and a half of being off. Yeah, like you get out of your role, you get out of your.
You get rusty. Yeah,
it seems like when we got back on the first time with Rumblings, like we had it. It was like the magic was there. I don't know.
I'm rusty.
Matt talked about it. There's like an awkwardness off season. We're already thinking about next week. What in the world are we going to talk about next week? Yeah. But I guess if OTA started on Monday, which I didn't know that, I think I'd lost track of that, then we'll probably have some stuff to talk about. But I'm a co-host. Hey, Chris, anytime you want to come on.
Chris Jenke. Anytime Chris wants to come on. Anytime. Seriously.
But we love you guys. We love all the people that are loyal watchers and listeners to this show. We obviously would be doing this if you guys, weren't here. Being a part of the show all the time. So thank you very much. Anything you want to say before we hang this thing up?
Go Lakers. Lake Show. Let's get it.
Go Lakers. He said, well, I'm going to finish with go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.